Boa tarde a todos. Esta é a 16ª semana da Mostra Virtual Permanente do IVL, e hoje nós estamos agora aqui para a segunda Masterclass dessa época, e nós temos o grande prazer de receber o professor Bernard Zinck para esta Masterclass. Lembrando que essa semana, além da Masterclass, nós teremos na UNIRIO Musical, daqui a pouco, às 18 horas, o sexteto do Antônio Guerra. Na quinta-feira, teremos um seminário com o compositor Paulo Gentil Nunes. Na quinta-feira, a série Villa-Lobos Aplaude, com o quarteto de cordas ao vento. E sexta-feira, uma palestra com o professor Paulo Bozizio sobre como estudar, obtendo resultados, mesmo nesta quarentena. Então, não percam a programação, que está muito legal essa semana. Então, para a gente não perder tempo, vamos, então, convidar o professor Bernard Zinck.
Boa tarde.
Bonjour, Bernard. Nous sommes très contents de te recevoir ici pour notre masterclass avec des élèves du bacharelado de violon de UNIRIO. Donc, pour ne pas perdre du temps, on commence, ok? Tu veux dire quelque chose?
Thank you, Mariana, for inviting me. I'm delighted to hear and work with your students again, and let's make some music together and have a good time for the 2 hours that we have together.
Thank you. So we can start with Isabelle. So Isabelle will play the Sonata of Schumann, first movement.
Okay.
Bernard?
Yes, maybe we can stop. Yeah. Very good, Isabelle. What can you tell me about this sonata or about Schumann music on violin?
I think it's a very intensive and romantic music, and I try to make some contrast also, and I think this first movement of this sonata is really intense. If I could define it in one word, it would be intense.
Okay. Because I think we have to be careful when we play Schumann. It's not Brahms, and I think the two people were very different. Brahms was like a very solid person. You know, he had a long life. Schumann had a lot of health issue, mental health issues. So Schumann was a person who was like very up and down. He was, you know, maybe now we would say he was bipolar, but so he had like a lot of moments of incredible happiness and sadness. So I think this music, the music of Schumann is reflects that. So it's intense, but I think there is a lot of this, like, for example, when you start at the beginning, it's piano, then you have a sforzando right away. So I think you are almost playing the sonata as if it were a Brahms sonata. So very intense, a lot of sound. But I think what makes the difference between Schumann and Brahms, it's like in Schumann, nothing stays the same for a very long time. So I think I think you have to be careful about this, because, you know, if everything is intense, it loses this kind of throbbing. You know, you have this. This I think more than intense, I would say it's feverish. I don't know if feverish in Portuguese would be when you have fever, when you are sick. So yes, so I think you have to be careful about this. And of course, you know, you're not playing with the piano, so it's, you know, you have to imagine, because it's, you know, the piano is as important as the violin. So sometimes, you know, you are starting an imitation, sometimes you're answering, sometimes the piano has a ta-di-da, ya-da-da-di. So you have an octave, so you have to sustain that. So I think at the beginning, you have to be feverish right away, but so I think you shouldn't be, you know, you have to start maybe with a lower dynamic level and with little peaks rather than the da-da-di-di. And it is piano only. So you have to be careful that when you see on a score sforzando, a sforzando in forte is not going to be the same as a sforzando in piano. So you have to maybe give numbers to the sforzandi. So maybe at the beginning, to me at the beginning, it's almost like when you know that there is activity but you don't see it. So it's more like underground. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So try this at the beginning.
Okay.
Good. So also pick the vibrato that's going to serve this. So maybe at the beginning, start vibrating right away. So that your vibrato, it's almost like you can have a dial of speed. So maybe at the beginning, pick a narrow vibrato, then extend. I'm exaggerating, of course, but try to really quantify the amount of vibrato that you use for the piano, the crescendo, the sforzandi, the forte piano, so that everything has a specific vibrato speed. Does it make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And at the beginning, I would probably you want to kind of give a feeling of the tempo, because you don't have the 60 note, but the piano has. So and and try to really feel. And also why it's different than Brahms. If you look at the score, Brahms tends to have long slurs, long legato articulation. Here you don't have this. You have ta da di pa da pa di pi da pia da da di. So I think that also think of it as waves. So the waves are small. So that's also going to contribute to that feverish. You know, you're not ta da di da da di da 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 di, but ta da di da ya di da. So there is this feeling, you know, like this of maybe. Do you have this in Portuguese? Febril.
Febril.
Yeah. So I think to me there is something very febrile about this music. Okay. So let's do that again. So quantify the vibrato so that your vibrato serves all of those little waves. Do it once at the tempo. Ta da di da pa di di. So that you can control the articulation and the vibrato speed. Yeah, so here you have so you have to be precise with, you know, what's a sforzando, what's an accent, what's a forte piano. Yeah, so let's do that again. So I think at the beginning I would even pick a tighter vibrato. And now let's try to add the vibrato speed. So you're going to use your speed to create also those waves. Okay? So vibrato, articulation, and both speed. Yeah, do you see the difference? It's more unstable, and it's because the music, there is almost an absence. Schumann is trying to avoid giving accents on downbeat. It's not da da di ti da pa di ti da. It's always the contrary. Ta di da di da ya di ya da da. Maybe at 4, that's the first downbeat. Ti ya di ya da da di da ta. So let's do that again and think of dropping when you have those downbeats.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now find a different color, and now I think the ta da di di da da di da 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 ya da di da da di da da. So that phrase, at least for 4 measures, you don't have a wave like this. So I think here there is a little bit more gradual. So let's do the second phrase. And again, find a different vibrato so that maybe a little tighter. Yeah, so it's not like the beginning when you have ta da di di da pa di di ta da di di da da di di da da da. So let's do that again. So resist the temptation to do the same thing as the first phrase. Okay, yeah, and here again we have an explosion of passion. So as you go up, your vibrato is starting to get smaller. So I wouldn't do that. I would, on the contrary. So you need to make sure that that note has the most vibrato. Okay? And I think when you do this, when you do those 3C, tam, pa, you can rebuild. So start from a little softer and ti, da, 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 pa. You have a really clear si, mi, do, fa, sol, do, la, mi, pa. Okay, so let's do from here.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think you really have to earn that note has to have the most vibrato, and control your vibrato because you do I think it's just not the first note, it's the interval. Ta da 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 ya dam pa. So it's the two notes, it's sol, do, la, mi, fa. Your vibrato tends to be more on the sol, la. So play the interval. Ti, ya, di, da. Yeah, and then after, make sure that you feel in your détaché. Okay, do that a little on the tempo. Pa ya pa 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 da ya. Yeah, and Isabelle, make sure that you don't make string crossing. So make sure that the détaché and the string crossing is very clear. Yeah, good. Yeah, and then you finish tam patata tam patata tam patata tam patata tam, and here you are competing with the piano has very big chords. So pam patata tam patata tam patata tam patata tam, and then you have a cadence in A minor. So let's do la fa do la sol. Yeah, and you have to be careful that you are getting closer and closer to the tip. So ta 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 ta. So make sure that you are here. So stay closer to the. Always be at the starting point. Don't get closer and closer to the tip because you will lose power. Yeah. So again, your vibrato tends to be a little, your vibrato, I think, should have an impulse, but then very fast, but then after less. So ti ta 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 pa ta ta tam, so that it creates more of an accent.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you and ti da 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 ya, you have to be more powerful in the cadence. Ti da 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 tam pa, and you have this very often where you stop and then you have this several times in the piece tam pam pam pam. So I think here you can really behave your ti da 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 tam pam, and after restart right away.
Okay.
So let's do that again. So control your vibrato. Look at your left hand. Yeah, and then after you are alone, the piano has ta ya da yi da da da, and so it's almost as if you have a chord. So ta 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 pa. So now you're almost like you're almost the piano with the 6 voice chord. So you have to be careful when you do it. So you have to be very powerful, very heavy. So enter the string and vibrato as well. Okay?
Okay.
So you have a strong cadence and then you are solo on a chord. So tam, pa. Yeah, and here, ti da da ya da 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 di. So again, we were very powerful and dramatic, and all of a sudden we have something a little bit more tender. Ti da da ya da da da. So don't push it. So tam, pom, ti da da ya da 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 di. Now you have one harmony. Ta di da da, ti da da da, pa di da dum, pom, and again. So we have 3 little try, and then ta da da di di. So don't be too loud right away. Okay, so let's do ta da da ya da da di da di. So a little bit more tender. Yeah. So again, the sforzando here, it doesn't mean that you are forte. So I would probably ti da da ya da da. And you have to sustain the piano. So ta di da da ya da da. So at the beginning, almost make it sound as if you're unsure. So and maybe you can use less bow. Tam pi da di da tam pi da 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 ya di da ya yam. So use a little less bow, and remember, sforzando is not an indication of a general level. Okay, so let's do the first one. Tam pi, so smaller. Yeah, and I think you can cue even though you don't have a piano. So that you are really together, and that ta di da 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 ya da da. And you need to make sure that you listen for the piano. If the piano wants to do ta da da ya da da, to do a little broadening, you have to allow this to happen. Good. So then after, so let's do ta di da da pom pom pom. Can you do that?
Okay.
So from 37. Okay, So what do you make of those chords? I think again it's this kind of, you have da 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 di da da pom pom pom. They have to be really more of a surprise, almost like a little crazy. I think ta di da da pom pom pom, and right away you become febrile. Ta da ti da pa da tam pom pom pom, and now you have not only the wedge but you have a sforzando. So I think you can delay it, which will give it more power. Tam pom pom pa di da da di da di da da di. And again, when you have that beautiful leap, you disappear. It's almost a music where it's almost like you feel like you are walking. I don't know if you have this expression in Portuguese, walking on eggshells. It's almost you are walking, but then you never know if the ground is going to like to be under you or just vanish. So I think it's so play those chords as if we do not expect the chord. So ta da da di da, pom pom pom, and right away you go back to underground. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now the chord, do you want the chord to be solid or aggressive?
Solid.
Yeah. So I think you have to pay attention. There is a difference between solid and aggressive. It could be solid and aggressive, or it could be either one. And maybe you want, instead of you could do because if you do that, you have two different sounds. You have
okay.
If you want. Yeah. So if you do that, maybe you would do. So do an open string under La, and then Sol first finger, and then 3, 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and here you have little hairpins, so it's not ta la, it's ta la, which is going to sound more like a plain like a sigh. And it's not because the piano can't really do it. The piano has the same thing, but the piano is going to ta, but ta la, ta la. Do you have also a Portuguese word which lancinando? Lancinando? No?
No.
It's a little bit the same as throbbing, like as if you have sometimes when you have fever you feel the heartbeat. So okay. So let's do and then you restart. And again, this is a da-di-da-da-da. So you are descending, so not too loud. Maybe do it ti-da-da-di-da-da-da. Yeah, and here support the piano. Ta da di ya da di da. So ta ya da. Good. And again, when you are ta da ya di da da di di. Ba da 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 da. We don't expect the change of register. So ta ba da 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 da. So you can do do it again from. Isabelle. Yeah, shorten re do pa da 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 ta ya pam, so that you have enough time to do your string crossing. Yeah. And I think you have a different harmony on the Do and the C sharp. So ta da ba di da di So I think the second one has to be even more core. So and then the C sharp is going to result in the it's going so do, C, C sharp, and back to C. Okay, so do that again. Yeah. So let's do and maybe when you go to the development as opposed to when you do the repeat, you can maybe a little bit less so that it's clear that we are not getting back to the exposition. So when you do so you can be almost a little bit like a ghost. And then restart. And all of a sudden it's over. So let's I want us to do the passage when you have Peter. So when you have the 60 note, make sure that you give a line. It's not da. You need to highlight the line. So let's do that under tempo. Si, so, re, ya, ta, 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 ta. Okay, can you do it once? Ti, ba, da, 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 di, da, 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 di. So don't play the barriolage, just play the line. Yes, and then after pi, da, da, ya, da, 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 same. So you have the arpeggio and then ta, da, da, da. Yes. Okay, so now let's try to see how you can maintain that clarity, but with the barriola. So let's do ti da da di da da pi da pa da pa. So now and then so you are going to have a little bit more bo pila but on the first note, so a little bit more speed and a little scoop. And if you want, I don't do the ti da ta 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 ta. You could also do ti ta 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 pila pa da pa. You could separate the C sol if you wanted. You don't have to do it. It's going to sound the same if you do tira or tira de da 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 ti, because it might be easier to do. Rather, it's up to you. But let's try to do this. So tira tita tita and pi pa pa. Yeah. Isabelle, make sure that when you do you want to be on A string before you play. You don't want to be traveling when you do the détaché. So ti da di da di da pa da pa. Your bow has to be before the note. Yeah, and I think when you do the 2 and 2, do you think maybe it could? To me, it's a little bit more playful. It's the first time maybe in the whole movement that something is a little less, agitated. So pila, 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 pa. So I would use a little less bow and not, and again, if you look at the line, ta da da ya da ya 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 ya, it's not ta da da da. You have a little bit of a bounce. Ti dum pum pa dum pum pa dum pum pi dum pum pi da 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 da. So create a little bit more of a swing like this. Tira, 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 tada, tada, tiri, tada, 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 tira, ta, 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 ta. And more playful, so the playfulness will come with using a little less bow and being lighter with your bow arm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I like this better, yeah, because the da di da da di ya da, you are accompanying the so we don't, it's not, a virtuosic passage. It has to be a little lighter. Okay, let's do that. The next one. So yeah, again, and you have a string crossing. So make sure that I'm going to monitor this. So when you do, so don't move your forearm. Let the hand. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah, and Isabelle. So string crossing clear. Yeah, and you can do this a little closer to the tip, which would be easier to do that string crossing. Yeah, yeah, and I think the second chord is tam, pam, pa. It's not ta, ta. So continue tam, pam, pa, da, 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 da. Go to the fa, tam, pam, pa.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do, continue the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, and here you can probably I think here there is a you can slow down and then now more and the piano has and then you answer T da 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 da, and now it's you first da ya da dee ya da da da.
Okay.
So let's do ta ti ya da, and then very soft. The piano now has ta da 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 da, and it's very close. Instead of having big ta da ti da, it's now very small. It's only third. It's the piano has so. Now more. And again, you have, a lot of two measures, the violin, two of the piano, a lot of back and forth. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the end of the development. We are going to have the recap soon. So let's do that again. Yeah, and maybe with the idea, with a little hairpin. Ta-da-da. So if you have the idea again of dropping, don't use such an active vibrato. Your vibrato is like very passionate. I would So again, we don't know where you are going, so there is no ta da 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 da. I don't think it's yeah. Okay. So again. Yeah, good. I would be even less, and maybe I could. You could do harmony. And what's wonderful, it's when you have on the downbeat, the piano is going to give you an E flat. So. And now the second beat, you have so you have that beautiful second. So ta da 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 da. So when you have the sforzando, it's because you have that rubbing of the E flat, the mi bemol, E flat, and F, and then after F and G. So even though you don't have the dissonance, think of the dissonance when you play. But I would be much less at the beginning. Now use more bow and more vibrato. So you really use the vibrato and the amount of bow that you use to serve the musical phrasing that you want to do. Yeah, and when you do this, do not rush because the piano has 60 notes. So so you want to make those dotted quarters very solid and full, but don't shorten them because the piano, you don't want the piano to play.
Bernard, excuse-moi, ça va être l'heure aussi.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I think the key is to make sure that you manage those little waves, because you have so many of those little waves. It's like watching a lake or the sea where you see a lot of waves like this. So you have some bigger waves and some smaller waves, but if every wave is as important, it becomes a little less, then we know what to expect. So you have to make sure that some of it is underground, some of it explodes, but most of the time it's almost that feeling of like ground is never. Okay. So I think maybe try to sit more feverish than passionate. Yes, it's passionate, but I think it's more feverish than passionate, Schumann's music. And also the articulation are much less long than in Brahms. So you have to find a sound and a vibrato which is going to reflect that. And don't be afraid to sound a little crazy or ta da da pom 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 pom. That's the type of music. That's who Schumann was.
Okay.
Remember, he was, he thought, there was a railroad, there was a Florestan and Eusebius, so he actually had different names for the personality. So I think there is always that juxtaposition of somebody outgoing, somebody who is depressed and doesn't want to do anything, and somebody who is very ebullient. So always think of unstable, unsteady, feverish. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we continue avec Guilherme.
Okay. Who's going to say Tchaikovsky? No. Guillermo is back.
First sonate of bar. Sonate of bar. Okay.
Mariana.
Oi, Guilherme.
Oi. I will play the Adagio by Sonata Number 1 by Bach.
Okay, good. Okay, bravo. Bravo, good. A couple of things. I'm going to just give you some general observation and then after more specifically to Bach. You have to be careful that when you do a détaché, you do a lot of this. So I'm not, yeah. So and sometimes I have the feeling it hinders your sense of bow development because you don't need, you know, I don't think you need to. You sort of do something like this, and I have the feeling maybe it's because you know you think it's going to help you be more musical, but this is not going to, to affect your sense of musicianship. So you have to kind of make sure that the bow is allowed to be, horizontal. So that's one thing. And I also feel like when you do things with like string crossing or different speed in the bow, it's almost as if your hand was the one driving everything. So when you do, see, I feel you very active here instead of, for example, it's here. Or like if you have a détaché, you are active here, but it's not your hand. It's almost as if your hand is constantly taking you, like to do things. So you have to be careful that, think of, the hand very often is the last, if you think of your arm, it's string crossing, détaché, the hand is the last event, and yours it feels like it's almost like the first thing. And when your hand is more active, also it creates, because you do this on the bow, so of course it's going to have so even when you have a chord, it's not my hand which is deciding, so you have to be careful not to give too much action with your hand.
Okay.
So when you do something, know where the motion, the physical action starts from. Okay? Okay. Now, the difficult thing, I think, with this movement is that you have to have a sense of improvisation, obviously, because it's a very chordal. You have chords and written out ornaments. But we still have to feel a heartbeat or a sense of direction. And sometimes I feel like it's very beautiful the way you played. You give a nice sense of improvisation, but we lose where we are in the beat or in the piece. So you have to be careful about always feeling ta di da da di da ya da da di da da ta ya da 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 pim pam. So you have to make sure that you have the heartbeat is constant, even though you sound like the written ornaments are improvised. What is the form of that movement?
The form?
Yes.
Binary form.
Okay. So where does your first section end?
In measure 9.
Okay, and so measure 9, the first section end. Where does the second section start?
Yes.
Where does your second section start?
In the second beat of measure 9.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. To me, it's more like you have this. So that's your first phrase. Second phrase, then third phrase, and then if you look at measure 14, you have you see how it's parallel. So I think to me it's more an A prime. The first section would start from the beginning all the way to the deceptive cadence at measure, so the downbeat of 13. Then you have this 3 beat, and now tom, and it mirrors the beginning. So you have 3 beats of transition, and the A prime starts measure 14, and it follows the same. You have the first phrase, it's tonic, dominant, tonic, because we are in C minor. Then you have the second phrase, then you have third phrase, so I think you have to be careful that you have those 2 sections which are very clear. To me, I don't see a second section where you told me that it was, but it's personal, we could always find a different Yeah. So let's do that again from the beginning. So think of the beginning as you have two big chords. You have the tonic, this one, then this one. So I think if you were to reduce the first phrase to the bare thing, it would be tonic chord dominant and tonic cadence. Okay? So let's do that again. Yeah. Okay. So Guilherme, when you play the first chord, try to not react. So try to keep your chest calm.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Now make sure that when you play make sure that you will so you want this to keep ringing when you do. See, it still rings. So Guillermo, when you do this, don't be active here. Let your arm do. So really feel calm, and you are here on the Taya. Yeah. Again, when you So don't move your violin like this. Can you do mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la? Yeah, and I think you can even though it's the same chord, I think the first one here is open and the last one. So I would go a little faster to the top so that it feels more final. So you have ta-dam, pa-dam, pa-ya, and ta-ya-da-da-da-da. Good. So let's do that again from the beginning. So try to keep your chord, the arpeggiation, and you see how the tie. I would be precise when you go from chord to a single line. So make sure that you don't leave the chord too soon or too late. Do it da da di da da di da ya da da. Yeah. You don't. I think you want to leave the double stop only on the next beat. So you want to be. And you do it without. It's almost out of that chord. You have it spills the line, the ornament. Okay, yeah. So to me, this is the second phrase, and it ends with cadence. Then you can do a little break. Okay, so the second phrase is totally different than the first one. Instead of starting with a chord on the beat and descending gesture, you have a rest. So you have to... Now add a little... And that second phrase, it's very easy to rush the tempo because it's slow. We don't have all the activity of the first one. So make sure. And so don't push the DS note just because you don't have anything underneath. So maybe subdivide. So contrast the second phrase much more than the first phrase. So make sure that we know it doesn't start on a downbeat. Make sure that it's legato and it's one line and it goes up. And do a string crossing very... it's almost like a little question, like a curve. And a little vibrato. Now you add one voice and your top interval is consonant. And now it's dissonant. So play with the dissonant. Think of the dissonance. You know, I always think of Bach as a stained glass in a church. So a consonant interval has a different color than a dissonant or a perfect one. So let's do that second phrase. So feel the rest. One. Yeah. So Guillermo, again, I think that second phrase is so tender and calm. Try to not get agitated. So your face soft and don't use so much bow. Yes, again. Yeah. You are just going from one string from him. So you don't have to do a big motion with your arm. Imagine as if you are caressing like a, very gentle tie. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. Yeah, this was very nice. And here you have a perfect interval, which resolve into consonants. I think you can do a little release. And then after you have two voices. So you can be soft, a little more. So the dialogue between the two voices after from that third phrase. So let's do the half cadence of the second phrase with the release between the fourth and the third. Do it from here. Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. So can you look at your arm so that you don't do anything like sudden? So I'm sorry, you can't see my whole arm, but try to be as calm as you can here. So you are here. So that it really is, it's very quiet, your arm. Go ahead. Yes. Arm. yes, good, yes, yes. Yeah, good. Pay attention to the intonation from. You should have two steps. You have a step space and a step space. So, because both times you played it out of two. So that new phrase at 6, so try to follow the bass so that the bass again it's almost as if you were playing a trio sonata, so that the bass is a viol or a lower string. So give it almost like a cello or double bass sound for the bass, and then lighter your top voice.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think when you on the second beat of 8, you need to make sure that you are going. It's more rhythmic because you want to go to the cadence. It's the first real cadence of the movement. So I think it's an important point. So ta na pa da ya da dum bum bum pa da da ya da da dum bum pa. And I think yeah. So make sure that when you start, this is on the beat. And when you do the trick, you can still increase the crescendo to the cadence.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's do the downbeat of 8. Yeah. Your rhythm is not correct. You do ta da pa da. The fa is not on the beat. It's the sol is on the beat. So ta da pa dam pa da dam pam pia. So and it's also something we haven't discussed, but sometimes when you have a chord, make sure that you don't always increase the volume just because you have a chord. So for example, here, this was very nice. You had a very soft ta da di ya da pa da no. So I don't think you should do ta da da ta ta pi da. So yeah, so you have to be mindful when you do. Same thing. You are repeating the same note, so there is no reason to do. So you have to make sure that sometimes when you have a mix between one line and the chord, you don't always want to just have the chord so loud because it's going to interrupt the line that you are doing. Does it make sense?
Yeah, sure. Okay,
so let's do ta da di ya da pa da da. So that means that you have to prepare. So you are going to get.
sorry.
Yeah, and I think here it's the same principle. At 12, you have almost ta-di-dam-pam-pim-pa-da. And now the same as measure 8, you go to the cadence tam-pa-da-da-da-tam-pam-pim-pa-da-dim-pa-da. And this one, that deceptive cadence, should sound very dramatic and very striking. Because that's almost the end of the first section. So you have to make it really, we are not expecting that cadence, we are expecting so you can arpeggiate it slower so that it's even more dramatic. So let's do from here. And now you go to the cadence.
Bernard, excuse-moi, 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and if you arpeggiate too much, if you do, I don't get that horrible, not horrible, but that highly dramatic song.
Okay.
And then you restart your section. So yeah, so let's do ta pa da. Yeah, and so that it's important when you have those little sections driving to the cadence. That I think that's why at the beginning when you played it, we need them to be going to the cadence, because if you sort of take too much time, we lose that sense of purpose that the cadence, those two cadence, the perfect one at measure 9 and that deceptive one measure 13, they are really important points. They are finish off a section.
Okay.
So let's do again from 12. Tam, pi, dam. Yeah, and I think you could slow it a little bit so that it gives even more power. You know, just like when you play harpsichord, you can't. Yeah, that cadence, because when you play harpsichord, you can't have the pedals to add volume, so you have to do the timing is adding dynamics. And I think here it's you can do the same. So ta-yam, pa-dam, pam, pa-ya. It's going to add more power. And now you get the same kind of noble feeling that you had at the beginning, even though you don't have chord, but you have to reestablish and also because we are in C minor, which is a little bit more good. And so, for example, just to finish off, when you did you did. I think we need to have, because this becomes, so the way you arpeggiate your chord, you have to be careful that it serves the harmonic progression or the pair of resolving intervals. Like, for example, if you don't arpeggiate, if you leave the E flat alone, I don't get the F, E flat, the dissonance becoming consonant. I just get, so it's a, you need to also. So it's important that we have the logic of the harmony or the logic of the resolving intervals. So I think it kind of dictates how you arpeggiate chords. You can arpeggiate some of the chords if they don't have a harmonic implications. Okay? But
Okay.
yeah, I think when you stop doing this, it becomes more clear and you're actually freer. So make sure that when you play this piece, make sure when you play this piece, you feel calm, and then you don't add that kind of like lateral motion. Okay? And feel, even though it's a slow movement, it still has a sense of direction and a sense of purpose.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, teacher. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Para quem está assistindo, lembrando que no final da Masterclass, o professor Bernard Zinck irá responder a perguntas que vocês colocarem no chat, ok? So, Bernard, we go on with Sérgio, the first movement of Tchaikovsky's concerto.
Good. Good. I think you have to be careful that at the beginning, when you have the moderato assai, it almost felt a little. I think the more you went on, the more successful I felt it was. At the beginning, I think the introduction can be a little darker. Tadi padam padi padam padi da da, and then you have it da 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 pada da di ya da da pada di ya da da pada da di da 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 dam pa ya da 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 di. It felt a little bit almost like the first theme was too much in the character of the second one. I think the rhythm is really important in that you have to have a lot of energy in this movement. So ta-dam pa ya da 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 di yam pa dam pam pa da 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 and ti da pa da pa da pa da. When you do the slowing down, don't do it so soon. Ti da pa da pa da pa da yam pa da 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 di da 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 ya ti da pa da. So I think there has to be an energy of all those little rhythmic units. You have a lot of different gestures with the rhythm. You have dotted rhythm, you have yum. So papa yappa 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 ya. You have triplets, so you have a lot of activity. You have like when you before the second theme, tam pa da 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 pa. And don't slow down too soon. There is still that energy, I think, throughout that movement, through the most of it. So in the last movement. So I think you have to be careful about, making sure that everything has some vitality, some energy. Okay? And as a general comment, I think your vibrato, which is slow, it's more adequate for the second theme, because here you can have a slow vibrato. But since you have a lot of fast note in the first theme, if your vibrato is slow, it takes time to speak. So you have to be careful that maybe you need to pick a faster vibrato because it needs to speak right away. And as a general comment, everything works really well, but I think sometimes you lift your fingers a little too much. So you have to be careful to keep your hand a little bit more, because when you put the first fingers, often you have these fingers are lifted, so it takes you too much time to kind of put them back instead of having the fingers closer to the strings. Okay? Okay. So let's do that again. What you can tell me about Russian music and Tchaikovsky?
About this music?
Yeah, how would you describe Tchaikovsky or Russian music?
It's very romantic and expressive. And I think that's all I can tell about Tchaikovsky. Is always intense and always expressive.
Yeah. I think it's and even more expressive. You have to be it has to be very. Again, in English, there is this expression: you have to have your heart on your sleeve. Yes. So I don't know if there is something in Portuguese like this. In French, I don't know. I don't know what the expression is in French, but it has to be even more. So sometimes you can be a little, it exaggerated. So the part which are very vital, very rhythmic, exaggerate them, and the one which are expressive, exaggerate them. Ta da 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 dee da, ta da da dee da dee dee. So you can be a little bit over the top with that piece. Okay. Yeah, and I think there is also it's very Slavic. So there is a little bit, not so much in this movement. But in the last movement, so there is a little bit of it, almost folk element. It's not a folk melody, but I think here you have some of it a little bit. when you have you know, it's almost like a little mazurka, you know. So you have to make to know that, you know, it's Slavic music. So what makes it Slavic? What are the Slavic elements? And I think there is a lot of darkness, you know, in that first movement, and that's maybe there is a nobility to that first theme, I think, and you have pum pa pa pum pa pa, and that it's almost like you can think, you know, people on horse, you know, like in a cavalcade. Okay. So
like a ballet.
Yeah, so it's a big, I think it's a very, not only is it long, but it's emotionally, you have to be very big. It's like, you know, having a big fresco or big opera or big movie. The scope of this concerto is big, and not only the length, but everything is sort of over the top, you know, everything is, you know, when it's tender, it's very tender. When it's exhilarating, it's very exhilarated. When it's rhythmic, it's very rhythmic. So everything is very in this piece. Okay? So let's do, so when you enter, try to imagine you are continuing the orchestra, tari para pari param pari, and you have the darkness. We are at the beginning. What is the key?
Okay. The first notes can be a little longer.
Yeah, I think, well, that whole thing is almost like a cadenza. So tari para pari taram pari.
Okay.
And the B flat has to be really dark. Tari. And then toward the end, it opens up tari da da di da da. And then after you have those little, so you have the mi. Da ya da di da 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 da, si pa ya da da pa da da di da 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 di da da, and tempo da da pa. Okay, so
okay.
In your head, sing the orchestra. Sa da pa di pa da pa di pa dam pa di. Can you sing the orchestra before you start?
Do you want I sing now?
Sing. Fari da da da.
Parim parim param.
Yeah. So you are entering with the motion of the orchestra, and then you take it, you make it your own right away. So tadi tada tadi tada pari, and then that's you. Yeah. And I think probably after that B flat, you can back off and don't give an accent. Don't do tari tari. It's tari ya ya da di da, and you have to go tari da. So again, it's like almost as if all of a sudden there is like you open the windows and you have like air coming tari da ya da di da.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, muito bom. So yeah, that's it. So you want to have a sense of guided, you know, cadenza, which was good. And when you can play with the, so you have, you know, kind of ta da da dee da 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 ta da da. So you kind of go forward and you recede like this.
Okay.
And then finally. So again, you finish that whole cadenza with ta da da dee da.
I can take more time in this part.
Yes, you want to express the kind of crying quality of the chromaticism. Ta da da dee da.
But explaining all the notes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, more like ta da da dee.
Okay.
but make every note the chromatic being expressive. But don't do pa 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 pi. So do the ta da da dee da 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 pa da 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 da. Yeah, do it. Just do Yeah, so the first one you have la fa. Ta-dam, pa, ya da 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 dee da dee da, more ti-yam, pa. And I don't think you do ta-da, but ta-yam, pa. So don't cut your. So it has to be, the first one I think is rhythmic, but still with a certain tenderness. Ta-yam, pa. And the fa is not staccato, so you don't need to do ta-da, pa.
Okay.
So yeah, so and you can probably cue for the orchestra. So cue that downbeat. Ti-da, pa-dam, pam, pi-da-da-da-dee. Yeah. Do you have a piano when you start on the first theme? The first note.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you should ta da da dee da da pa da pa. I think you should start. You have to be in tempo, but it's standard. It's piano. It's not forte. Yeah. If you do, so I think the second one, the first one, it's imagining you are ta-yam pa di da da di da di da ti-yam pa, and I think the fact that you repeat. There is something a little pleading, as if you are asking something. Ta-yam pa di da 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 di da di da ta-dam pa da di da 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 da. So exaggerate the fact that you repeat the note means something.
Okay.
So let's start right on the theme. Ta-yam pa. Yeah, it's still piano and it shouldn't be ta-da pa, but ta-yam pa. So the first F shouldn't be so. You do too much. So don't leave the bow so soon. Continue the bow. Yeah.
Watch your stop.
Think of the beginning as it has to sound inviting. You kind of want to draw the audience with you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then more tiam pa da di da da di da, and then you go ti da da ya da di. Now you have a repetition ti da 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 da. Now chromatic ta da 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 ti da 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 pa da 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 di di di. So that idea again with always this. Okay, so let's do. Yeah, good. Yeah. So when you have the quarters with the tie, make sure that you don't lose the vitality. It's ta da ya 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 da 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 ya pa 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 da 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 ya pa 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 da da da. Instead of ti da da ti da da ti da da. So don't sag. You want to keep ti da ya. So subdivide in the new rhythm. So the first one, subdivide triplet. Ti da ya ta 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 da di da di di da pa 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 da 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 di da di ya ta 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 da da da. So do it from 33. Yeah. So good. So yeah, keep the energy and always ta yappada yappada. Now, when you repeat them at the end and you are doing something with the tempo, do also something with the dynamic so that it sounds playful. Ta yappada reppada pada yappada. So instead of ta da pada 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 pada, and actually it's written you have a diminuendo. So don't just do ta da ta da ta da ta da. So do something with the timing and the dynamic as well. Okay. So when you practice it, when you do, so you have to make sure lift. So you have now fast bow, lift. So again, that sense of improvisation a little bit here. Okay, so let's do la de para. The first one, la. Yeah, yeah, from here. Yeah, and we need to make sure that when you start the chromaticism, it's clear and not so it has to be clear when you start a measure 40. So it has to be clear. Okay.
In tempo.
Yeah, I would do the T and then yeah. You can take a little time on the pickup, but not on the triplet when you start. So start from So again, when you have the calando and the ben sostenuto, you have to do it, but you have to ask yourself, what does it do emotionally? Because you slow down, which was nice, but you kept the same character. I think when it becomes a little bit the fact that you slow down, I think it makes it a little bit more friendly, a little bit more sensible. So there is I think there is no point in having like this very military character. If you slow down, it becomes a little gentler. So make sure that when you do something dynamic-wise or tempo-wise, it's because it means something musically or emotionally. You don't do something just, you know, for doing it. It has to correspond to something musical or emotional. Does it make sense?
See, yes.
So let's do two measures. Taram padiram padaram padiram padiram padaram padayam padadadidadam. I think when you slow down, something should happen to the last note. So you don't do the last note can't be so short and so lifted. I think it becomes a little bit more. It becomes a little bit more linear like this, rather than having that lift. Okay. Sorry.
2 minutes.
Oh. Okay. So when you have the second theme start, which is unusual for a piece. Usually, when we have a second theme, we have only one statement. Here you have at C you have. Then you have it repeated. Then you have it in a different octave, and then after you have here, you have it from here. It's modified, but you still have the theme. So you have to think. How do you want to play it? At each time it comes back, because it shouldn't be the same. So I think at the beginning, probably make it very tender and simple. And after, maybe it could be a little bit more heartfelt the second time. And now when you do it on G string, it becomes much more, you know, like as if you were again like a lower string, so much bigger. And then when you do from, then it becomes like, you know, very passionate. So change your vibrato. There is so many things we could talk about, but yeah, so you have to make sure that you have that rhythmic vitality, you know, when you have you have three little waves. Again, that idea of waves. The first one, second one, and this one, then you kind of go over, and then then you go back to a rhythmic strict. Now you have a new level. So you have a lot of units which keeps building. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 to do T, and now you have a different. So you have to pay attention to all of those little virtuosic things mean something musically, and a lot of them keep, you know, driving the intensity like in waves. So you go up in 6 little waves, and then you come down. The same for and then finally so you keep having sequences. So you have to make sure that you organize all of this so that it always, because otherwise the principle is always the same. You have like 3, 4, 5 little units get you to a top. Then you have the same with a different pattern. So each time you do it, it has to be exciting each time. So then you have this the same so even in the tremolo you have those waves again. So it's draining physically because you are so active in this piece. And then when you do this, make sure so make sure that all your fingers are really loose. So loose wrist and fingers for this. So so again, you have the same thing stacked up with sequence. And again, like, you know, it serves a purpose. And when you do after all of this excitement, back off. So tam pam 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 pim pam pam pim pim pam pam pam. Again, then you rebuild. And now you are going to have something also Slavic. Tam pa pa pam paradim. Like, yeah. And ti piaradim piaradi ta da 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 di piaradim piaradi ta di ti ta 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 pira ti ta tira di ta ta. So you have to always think of those sequence driving to a peak. Then you have a sequence usually with a different pattern coming down. Then you have another series. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we finished with Ágatha, with the Passacaglia of Biba.
Oi, Ágatha.
Oi! Ça va?
very beautifully played, because it's a difficult piece because you don't have a lot of material at your disposal. Good. I still think you can sometimes, with what the differences that you have in the variation, I think it can probably feed a little bit more the character, or the speed that you have. Sometimes I feel, and maybe it's because of the sky, but sometimes I feel like you push maybe the dynamic too much. Always, I think there are some sections which can be much lighter, and where, for example, when you have at I don't know if we have the same page, but when you have when you have those little scales, it's toward for me, it's like on page 6, it's 3 pages before you end. When you have and then after, when you repeat, you have so you can make a difference. I think when you have do re mi do fa, it's a little more playful, and then when you have the ta-ta-ta, it's a little bit more. So I think there is still a little bit of, I think it's you're playing it wonderfully, but I think sometimes it could be a little bit more lighter or more playful. So let's do that again from the beginning. Yeah, let's do that from the beginning. And again, I think you can play with this idea that you are playing almost, you are different instrument. So when you ta da di da da ta ti da da, sometimes I feel like you mix. If you were playing this as a pianist, I would say you are mixing your hands, like your left hand sounds the same as your right hand. So I think here, when you have the descending bass, which is the whole thing, it always should have this kind of the same ta, di, da, ta. So try to not have the ta, di, da. It's two voices, so you have to be careful that the higher voice doesn't sound the same as the descending bass. And just a question, do you view the sta, pam, pim, pam? Are you doing exactly the same volume on the first statement, or are you doing a little softening, tam, pam, pim, pam?
Yeah, a little bit softening. Dum, dum. I don't know if I understood what you meant.
Are you having the same volume for the 4 notes, or do you do a little softening at the end?
Yeah. Yeah, I think every end I do a little bit softening, like dum, 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 and then dum, dum.
Okay. So yeah, so if that's what you want, it's not, maybe it's because of the connection, but it almost sounds like the 4 notes have exactly the same. Yeah. So then do what you do what you just said. So that means that so good. So that means that when you start the first variation, so you are going to then so you are going to
a little impulse at the first.
Yeah, so I think make it even clearer. So after the re sol fa mi re, and then less.
play direct from this or
Yeah. Do it from the last. Do it from the.
No, again.
Yeah, and give the feeling. So that there is a little. It's almost like a balloon.
Like this really feeling,
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, and it's similar to what I was saying to your friend who played the bar. You have it's a third. Now you have a perfect interval, and then you have and now you have. Yeah, so I think the ta-di-da-da, pi-da-da-da, and you repeat, but ta-di-da-da-ya-da. Now you have a dissonance. Lean into the dissonance. So do it from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Measure 5. Yeah, continue. Yeah. And I think again, so even though you push the top, I still think it's left hand, right hand. So and you can exaggerate maybe the articulation, so there is more of tam pam pi ta-da-dum pam 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 pi-da-dum pam 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 pam, so that it's slightly more articulated top. And maybe I would so that you so you have I would do 3 and 3 maybe. Yeah. And now I think take advantage of the roll. This is the first time you have this, so like a lute, if you were playing on a lute. So let's do with on the trill. Yeah, and make sure that you soften. So soften your bowl a little sooner. So let's do from. So maybe the first time you have this, I would not do it so but a little softer, so that a little gentler.
Wait.
Yes. Yeah. And now you can create the difference by doing so try to find what is going to make the difference. because it's not going to be the descending, the harmony. So yeah, so the first one is the rolling the chord, and now it's the triam, parim, pam, pariada. Okay, so do the repeat.
But you mean like really with a slur, like, or because I was doing like separating a little bit, or
I would do the separation after. So I would do the first four. I would do triadam pam pariadam pam pariadam pam pariadam pam natia parim pam param pim param pam para and nati pam pam pariam pam pam pariam. And then after I would separate, but it's yeah, you could do something else, but yeah, I think try to find a way to differentiate those 4 beats, 4 beats, and 4 beats. Okay, so then yeah, so let's go on. So ta da dum pam 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 pa da dum. Yeah. So for example, here it was nice. Ta da da ya pa 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 da da ya ta ta pa and da pa da pam pa. We expect a sequence, but you have something different. So tia pa de pi da pam pa da. And also this is the first. This one is similar to the one you had before when you are doing ta da da pam pam pim pa. But here you have ti da da ya da da pa da da ya da da. So play with the contour. You go up and then you come down. I would do a little bit more so that there is the contour of the note is clear in the dynamic. And then when you do we need to hear that articulate yeah. So yeah, so go do that again.
go on.
So for example, here it sounds too much the same. So you have tada pada 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 pida 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 pada 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 yam pa pada pada pam pam pada pada pam. So you have to be a little bit more playful because your string crossing is bigger. So can
you tell here like the
well, not so much, but you want to make it lighter and more playful. This is a little less playful when you have. So play with the articulation. You could. So that if the articulation is shorter, it will make it more playful. So do that sol, re, si, fa. Yeah. Can you do the one before? Ta-da, pa-da, pa. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Or you can, if you want it, you can do. And You could do the first one to do 2 and 2, tada, pida, pada, 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 pada. And then after tapa, pada, pada, pa, pa, pa. So if you change the articulation, maybe that would also help changing the character.
Yeah, to create some different.
Yeah, try this to do it. To do down, down, up, up. Yeah, and I would probably do it shorter and closer to the tip, so you're lighter.
Like
yeah, something like this. Yeah, so now play Toria, down. Yeah, and I would probably, yeah, I think here it's almost like you are like in a hammock. Toria, but yeah, so I wouldn't do ta-ya. I think what's important here is the swing of the articulation. So don't do it. Yeah, so. Okay, so don't give an accent on your abo. Yeah, so I think you have to look at each variation and see pretty much the variation dictates to you how you play it. So, can you do the second page? So when you have the third, yeah.
Il nous reste 2 minutes.
Okay.
Merci.
Can you play the second page when you start having the fast notes? Yeah, so now, yeah. For example, try to do this, but the last note, so you can do a little crescendo, but the last note, light. Okay, now try this without giving an accent on the first note, ta, pa, instead of ta, 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 ta. Start your scale a little softer. Now, now try to give a little bit more space, ta, and now super light, pa, pi, as if you were. No, the first time. Try another version as if you were on 2 different instruments. So you have the bass ta, and now you're super light, Yeah, and when you get louder, don't get more aggressive with your détaché. Still very, very light. Yeah, and can I not hear your shift? I hear you shifting. Can you do the scale slower?
Sorry again.
Can you do the scale? Yeah. So I hear ta 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 ta. Don't accent the shift.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and also because of the shift, you stop. Ta ta ti ta 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 ta. because you are creating a subgroup by ta 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 ta. Don't do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. And now do the second ta da 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 ya da da pa ya da 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 ya da da. Maybe you could try to do ta pa ta 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 ta. You can try to do the scale a little faster instead of speeding the scale like you did the first time. So ta, then go fast. Ta-ra, pa, ta-ra, pi. Yeah, so it's ways to create, you know, you could almost try each variation and see how different can I do it and decide I'm going to go with that version. But I think you need to be more creative with how you do things. So after, for example, you have ta yada ta yada ta yada ti yada ti. Now you're playing with the first leap. So there is always an element. Sometimes it's the interval, sometimes it's the rhythm. Sometimes it's the harmony, which is going to make you have variety. And sometimes I have the feeling you don't always take advantage of that element, which is going to create the variety. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was something like, for example, when you have also I know we have to stop. When you have this, so here, that's the first time you have those scales. It's very easy. So you shouldn't do too much crescendo like you did the first time because it's not in a difficult register. Then can you do them after? Because I think you did the wrong note. No? Can you do this one slowly? After? Yeah. Yeah. Why are you playing a mi natural?
Me?
Yeah. Is it?
It's not for me here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, so I think you can do a little different. The first one is very easy. Yeah, so you can give now to it an emphasis in the abo. Yeah, so always, and I know we have to stop. So when you establish this, exaggerate a little bit so that it's clear. Then after, when you play, you don't have to exaggerate. But I think make it a little bigger, the differences in the variation, so that when you play, you know exactly this is what I have to do for this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo again. Yeah. Okay.
So Bernard, thank you very much. It's really a good present for us. We need to stop. I'm sorry. We have another things to do. So thank you very much merci beaucoup pour cette classe, c'est incroyable. Merci.
Thank you. Well, merci, puis portez-vous bien.
Oui, vous aussi, hein. Merci, Bernard.
Moi, je vais essayer d'aller en France peut-être au mois de novembre pendant 2 mois pour tout finir. C'est parce que nous, tout est en ligne à part 2 heures les cours de musique de chambre, j'en donne 2, je les donne face-to-face avec les élèves.
Oh, d'accord.
Mais donc, je vais peut-être partir à Thanksgiving.
Comme ça, il n'y aura personne dans l'aéroport et puis j'irai en France j'aurai plus de semaines du semestre et puis j'irai en France jusqu'à à peu près le 20 janvier.
Ok.
Parce qu'il faut que la maison de ma mère est en train d'être vendue, donc ça fait beaucoup de trucs. Mais je ne veux pas vous retarder, vous devez faire des choses.
Non, on va mettre simplement, on va mettre tout le monde ensemble maintenant.
Ok.
Eduardo, então, poderia mostrar todo mundo, só para a gente terminar, então, com todo mundo nas janelinhas?
Aha! I'm going to take a photo of all of you.
Então, eu agradeço a todos pela participação, muito obrigada pelo interesse e por estarem aí super disponíveis, né, nesse tempo terrível que a gente está passando. E alguém tem alguma coisa para dizer para a gente poder finalizar?
And bravo to everyone, because I know this is a difficult time for everyone, for all your families, and for Rio and Brazil, and congratulations for keeping up, working the violin, and not, because life is difficult right now for everyone. So bravo again, and thank you for playing for me today. It was a pleasure. And I have a Facebook page, so if you want, you can get to send messages if you want. And my violin studio also has a Facebook page. But congratulations, you all sound really good. You have a great teacher, and all the best for the rest of the semester.
Thank you very much. Eduardo, então pode colocar o vídeo no final e a gente pode ficar mais um tiquinho aqui para dar tchau com tranquilidade. Deixa eu só acabar aqui a transmissão. E aí a gente